when we first got married, we came to Israel, basically the day before Yom Yerushalayim, and Yom Yerushalayim that morning, Friday morning, was the classic incident. Did I tell you about it? What happened in Shul? In Yerushalayim, it was a formative experience for me. I went to the Katamon Shtiblach because at the time my wife's grandparents lived nearby, and that everybody knows. You go to the Shtiblach, why you should run around looking for me. It was jet lag. I guess it was late in the morning, but it wasn't that late. A nice full minyan, and the minhag that the Rabbanut decided on was that in order to mark the occasion, like on Yom Ha'atzmaut, they would say the longer version of Pesukei de Zimra, like they do on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Mm-hmm. So there's already odd minhag that they have. They do this on Hoshana Rabbah also. They printed in the art scroll Machzer, for example. Mm-hmm. Besides just the Halalukas and the Hodu, which by the way, Hodu's new, Mizmor Lesoda's new, just the Halukas, but they added all the things you would add on Shabbos and Yom Tov except for Nishmas. And if you listen to a classic Karlibach recording, apparently his last Hoshana Rabbah, if not many Hoshana Rabbahs, at least his last one, because it was recorded, he even ended the Pesukei de Zimra with Nishmas and Hakel and all that before Yishtabach. Okay. There's no Brachal Vatal in that case, so I guess you could do it. Either way, so the congregation started saying the extra Mizmorim. Obviously, it was like, it didn't go through like in a weekday sitter. They started saying the extra Mizmorim. And I was in the front row of this room in the Shtiblach. Are you familiar with the Shtiblach? Have you ever been there? The Shtiblach, by the way, is Yiddish for the plural of rooms. Like a Shtibel means a small shul. Mm-hmm. So Shtiblach means small shuls. Shtiblach is the modern Hebrew Yiddish for minyan factory. Yeah. Okay, that's what Shtiblach means, minyan factory. So the Katamon Shtiblach is the local minyan factory. The minyan factories or minyan mills are a facet of usually Haradite neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. In less Haradite neighborhoods, you're not like to find it, but Katamon Shtiblach does have a Haradite concentration nearby. There is a Hasidus nearby, but that's not who's davening there. It just so happens there's such a large concentration of Orthodox Jews that the Katamon can support a minyan factory. And it's a very nice place. Also, the mikvah's there. I don't recall a time when I've stayed in the neighborhood. And there used to be a family connection there. Stayed in the neighborhood quite often. Less often now they live here, but quite often I would basically daven there every time I'm there. Not every single prayer, but at least once that Shabbos, once that week, or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. I davened there 2 Pesachs ago also. It was quite nice. Anyways, so this fellow who's in this front row with me of this room of the synagogue, because they're small rooms where they daven. It's not like a full-size room like this. It's about a quarter of the size. Mm-hmm. But in that front row, this very pious dressed individual, he had a long black coat. It was a Sephardic guy, I guess, who went Hasidish. So he suddenly realized that something was amiss. Like, why don't they just go through with, what was it? Yichvod Hashem Le'olam. Why are they suddenly adding something? He looks puzzled. He looks at me, and I tell him Yom Yerushalayim. And he had the most horrified look on his face, like gasp and terror. Like you could just, it was palpable. And he just get me out of here, bolted out the door. Chas v'shalom, he should be stuck in a place where they're celebrating Yom Yerushalayim. Behind me was sitting Rabbi Altshuler. Who was Rabbi Altshuler? Rabbi Altshuler was a fellow who I think he learned in the Gush, and in the early years of Leif Torah, he was teaching there, sort of part-time, I think, because he was also studying to be a Tiul Madrichim, a tour guide, a Madrich Tiulim. Tiul Madrichim. Yeah. Madrich Tiulim. So he knew his history. They really trained these guys well. He's very educated. And I'd attended some of his classes back in, a few years before that. And he saw what happened. And he told me that it's so ironic that this guy is running away. Like, he's so afraid of Yom Yerushalayim. Yom Yerushalayim celebrates the liberation of Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. The Katamon Shtiblach was founded as a local shul by many of the people who were driven out of the old city of Jerusalem during the War of Independence. Mm. All the Jews who lost their houses in the old city because the Arabs were trying to destroy them. So they came, it was basically a land swap. Katamon was an Arab neighborhood, sort of. Mm. So the Jews took over Katamon, and this large villa, like a real nice, proper house, was converted into their synagogue. So the Yerushalmi Jews were davening here. They're the ones who established this place. And they had the most, he says, they have the most to celebrate about Yom Yerushalayim. So of course in the Katamon Shtibla we're going to observe Yom Yerushalayim. And this guy just like, oh, whatever. It's not firm enough to keep Yom Yerushalayim. Just thank God that now the people who established the synagogue can return to their synagogues. No, not good enough. So that was the formative experience I saw. So, and then I had Yom Yerushalayim meal that Friday morning with a leftist and some others. Came to say hello, just to see who's in the neighborhood. It was the first time I was in Israel in 2 years. Thank God, next year I came to stay, and I realized that there's a problem. We have to always thank God. We have to always consider that God is guiding history, and we have to mark a holiday as such. Whenever something big happens, we have to mark the day, because if not, we're going to forget it, or we'll raise a whole generation of Jews who have absolutely no appreciation for the miracles that God has done for us.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.